What's going on, guys? Welcome to Victims and Villains. If you guys are new to this channel, we create content specifically to talk about mental health through pop culture. My name is Captain Nostalgia, and today we're talking about Scream 6. Before I even start, comment in the comments below. Let me know your favorite movie. Mine is Halloween 2, and of course, a close second is good old Pinhead back here. So this movie picks up 1 year after Scream 2022, where we are following the Carpenter sisters and the Meeks twins as they are relocated to New York City in efforts to escape the past traumas of said film and encounter a whole new in the fallout of said trauma. I feel like with Scream 2022, the radio silence duo as directors really had to pay homage to the legacy of Wes Craven, whereas with Scream 6, they've proven that they have the legacy down packed, whereas with Scream 6 now you are essentially carving out your own story. And the thing that I like about Scream 6 is that much like Scream 2022, they are essentially proving that they can balance legacy while also pushing the story forward. I will say the legacy aspect of this film is kind of split down the middle. It's nice to see Kirby and Hayden Panettiere back in that role. I think she's one of the better legacy elements used in this movie. I also like how the film is addressing that this is officially a franchise by this point and kind of setting up the rules for what a horror franchise is. Very much feels like a throwback to Randy Meeks' scenes from Scream, the original Scream trilogy, but more specifically Scream 2 and Scream 3, where he's kind of classifying the rules of sequels and the trilogies. I feel like for the most part, Scream 6 does do legacy fairly well, much like Scream 2022. However, I feel like with Neve Campbell not returning as the iconic Sidney Prescott for this movie. Also, I'm probably gonna be, I know this is a hot take in the fandom, I love Scream, but good on her for knowing her worth. That's my 2 cents. I said what I said. Let's move on. Obviously, the returning legacy character for this film happens to be Gail Summers, played by Courtney Cox, and she feels so shoehorned in to this narrative. Like, I love this movie, genuinely love this movie. I think it does do a lot of things right for the most part. And it just kind of feels like they crafted this story around the Carpenter sisters, and somewhere along the lines, they're like, oh yeah, we need to add in Gail Weathers, and we need to do something with her. And she just feels like an afterthought for this movie. The way that they've handled the legacy characters between these two movies, it definitely feels like Cox got the short end of the stick on this one, and she is one of the very few sour notes in this one. Have you seen Radio Silence's original film before Scream 2022, Ready or Not? If you haven't, I highly recommend it. It's one of the best horror movies that has been made in the 21st century. But it's a real gore fest, and they brought that. They gave you a little tease of that last year, and they really upped the brutality for this one. I will probably say that this is probably the most vicious Ghostface we've seen thus far in the franchise, and as a lover of gags and just blood and guts, if you're like me, this film will absolutely satisfy those cravings. This is definitely the bloodiest Scream we've gotten thus far, and it definitely feels in line with modern day films. I think once you set a standard like last year's Texas Chainsaw bus sequence and a few of the others, Halloween Kills, as divisive as it is, it was a very gory movie. So we're in this era of just like extreme blood and extreme violence, and Scream definitely has a commentary to say on that. And I know this is probably going to be a little bit divisive among probably some of the fans of the franchise, but I liked how this movie really allowed the Carpenter sisters to kind of breathe, and the core four, as they're known, which is the Carpenters and the Meeks. I really loved how you got a chance to really see how the events of last year's installment really impacted them and kind of how they've dealt with that. I think it continues that conversation of toxic fandom, whereas last year you kind of got to see how toxic fandom can really have a negative impact on the people that are within the fandom, but also this time around you also kind of get to see and understand how something like that results in trauma, and how that trauma impacts people, and trauma bonds them. Except also there are genuinely like moments within this film where I will be honest, I almost teared up, because like there are really touching sequences in this movie. Jenna Ortega and Melissa Barrera, like this at this point has become their franchise. It proves that the legacy of this franchise isn't necessarily tied to people we met in 1996, but that this is the next generation that's pushing forward while also still continuing on the same story and giving it the episodic feel, and also delivering on that meta commentary that Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson established all those years ago. Ortega and Barrera, really in this film, you get to see kind of the dynamics of their sisterhood a little bit better than I feel like you did with the first film. You get to kind of see how the events of that film, but also the bombshells released in that film, how they've impacted them, and also created tension, but also at the same time allowed that tension to build genuine character relations that are just beautiful. I would definitely say some of the emotional moments of this film come from the core four, but also throwing in the fact of Hayden Panettiere as well. There's definitely genuine funny moments in this movie that, given how heavy emotionally this film can feel at times, it is nice that there are those like tiny bits of comedy to kind of ease that. I just recently watched The Fallout for the first time, and which is another Jenna Ortega film, and it deals with the fallout of surviving a school shooting. I got into the mental health journey of healing after a traumatic event like that, and that movie was all the way heavy. And so when you're having something with the same actress and similar themes, it's nice to have those little nuggets of comedy spliced in there. So needless to say, I'm excited to see where this is gonna go next for the Carpenter sisters. If this is it, I'm here for it. This is a perfect ending to the Ghostface legacy. But if they can choose to continue on, I'm here for it. I have fingers crossed for a certain Matthew Lillard character to return, like probably most of the fandom. With that said, let's run this through the Rorschach rating scale. I'm going to go ahead and give Scream 6 a 4.5 out of 5. I think this movie does everything almost perfectly right across the board. I think the legacy, acknowledging it as a franchise, the brutality of it, the comedy of it, the social commentary of it, and the emotional beats all across the board are truly excellent and exceptional. I do have some squanders with how some characters are treated, how some elements of the story kind of flow out, but I think this movie is a worthy successor to Scream 2022, and I would even dare say better movie, and it is easily one of the franchise's top 3, which feels weird to say that there's only 6, but it is in the top 3. Alright, if you guys have seen Scream 6, what did you guys think about it? Comment below and let me know. These are just my spoiler-free thoughts. We will have a full review out this Wednesday talking about this film in its entirety on Abyss Gazing. So make sure that you guys are subscribed to this channel so you guys don't miss it, or subscribe to Abyss Gazing on whatever podcast platform you use, whether it's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or anything else. This movie does tackle a ton of mental health, and we're going to talk about it in depth this Wednesday. So make sure that you guys run out to and support your local cinemas. Go check out Scream 6. And if you guys are going through anything that I've talked about in this video, and how specifically this movie tackles the subjects of trauma and the mental health journey that follows, click the links in the descriptions below to check out our mental health resource library and join the mental health conversation with us this Wednesday when we talk about Scream 6 Spoiler Edition. Have a good night, guys, and remember to comment. Let me know what your favorite scary movie is. Have a good night.